Yo, yo, yo. I'm Candy. I be knitting, and today I be wearing one of my hand knits. So that means we're gonna do a project deep dive on my most recent finished object, and that is what I am wearing. This is the Silverbells, one word, important distinction when you're searching on Ravelry, Silverbells by TinCanKnits. And it is a top down circular yoke sweater with lace motif, optional baubles. I have chosen the option of doing the baubles, and everything else is pretty normal about it. It's mostly this lace yoke. It's quite warm, a little bit prickly, so I'm gonna take it off now. Top down circular yoke, lace, baubles, and then it just goes into a traditional straight up and down body, no shaping in the body, and the sleeves are not shaped either, straight up and down sleeves. And the ribbing is all 2x1 ribbing, and it also starts off with a folded collar as well. So fairly traditional top down sweater. The real pièce de resistance, I am not of French extraction, is this lace chart in here. It was published in November 2023. It is only available in English, which is good for me because obviously French is not my strong suit, and it is $9. As of recording today in August 2025, there are 71 projects on Ravelry. I did not pay $9 for this pattern. TinCanKnits has an app for their patterns where you can kind of track your progress through their patterns and purchase patterns. As a whole platform for their patterns, and they were crowdfunding for it. And so with a donation of $20 to their crowdfund, you got the opportunity to get this pattern as a gift. And then I believe I got credits to either buy 3 or 4 more patterns. I want to say I got 3 credits, I think, if I'm remembering correctly. Or maybe I got 4 credits. 1, 2, I don't remember. So I paid less than $9 for this pattern. If you think about, it was free with a donation. So I paid about $4 or $5 for this pattern. And that is the big overview. I don't know how many pages the pattern is because I only own it digitally on the app. The sizing is TinCanKnits standard size. They describe it as a 6-month baby all the way through what they label as a 6XL adult, which translates to about a 21-inch chest circumference all the way up to a 79.5 chest circumference. And they recommend 2 to 6 inches of positive ease. So you could knit this for a small infant, depending on how much ease you would want. So for 21 inches final circumference, 6 inches of ease on 21 inches, that's 15-inch circumference across the chest. So about this little baby wearing a little Silverbells sweater, all the way up to, if you're 79.5 inches final circumference, you could get 6 inches of ease on a 73-inch bust. Usually, I don't have a 79-inch bust, but I have heard from people who have 60+ inch busts that usually they don't go for maximum ease. So if you were doing like 1 to 2 inches of positive ease, if you had a 78 to 77-inch bust, you could get the desired fit with this sweater. So very inclusive. It's what we expect from TinCanKnits. The stockinette gauge for this, they give you lace and stockinette gauge, but the stockinette gauge is 17 stitches per 4 inches with 27 rows per 4 inches. And they recommend a fingering weight held with a lace weight mohair, any kind of fluffy yarn. The idea with this sweater is it's supposed to have kind of like a fuzzy texture to it. But they also say if you got a DK weight or worsted weight where you're getting gauge, you could just do one strand of that held by itself. And they recommend size 8 needles to get that gauge. And then size 6 needles, US size 6 needles to do the ribbing. So all the ribbing is done on size 6 needles, and then all of the body and the lace is done on size 8 needles. Let's see. So yeah, the construction, really basic. You start with a neckband, you fold it over. I know some people prefer to sew their folded neckbands afterwards, but all I do is I knit the cast on with the bottom row and I fold it over like that, knit in a circle, and then I started the pattern. Then you go into this lace chart. There are a couple of charts in the pattern because you're increasing. They do say the bobbles are optional, so if you don't do bobbles, you would just do a knit stitch where the bobbles show up in the pattern. The pattern tells you to split for sleeves, and then you would continue the lace into the body. So if I had done that, there would be like about 2 more inches of lace there going into the body and on the sleeves, and I believe you maintain stockinette in the armpit area. Then knit to your desired length. For my size, they wanted me to do 13 inches, 13 and a half inches, a couple of inches of 2x1 ribbing on the bottom, a couple of inches of 2x1 ribbing on the sleeve. Difficulty level. This I would describe as an advanced pattern. As far as the skills needed to pull off this pattern, it's all of the skills that would go into making a sweater, you know, casting on, casting off, increasing, decreasing, splitting for sleeves. So I would really recommend someone had mastered making sweaters for themselves. This is definitely not a first sweater pattern because you're adding on to all of that and then choosing your right fit for a sweater. So imagine doing an incredible lace yoke, bobbles, splitting for sleeves, doing the lace down the sleeves, and then realizing, hey, circular yokes don't fit my body the way I like it, you know? And there's some people like that who are like, I will never knit a circular yoke, or I'll never knit raglans. My enemy is drop shoulders. I do not do drop shoulders. And so I would really recommend someone find out like what their personal style is and how to get the fit that they like in a sweater before attempting a pattern like this. A lot of people complain the depth of a circular yoke can be tricky for them because you end up, this one, I think TinCanKnits nails it with their fit of circle. I've never had an issue with raising my hand and my whole sweater coming up and showing my whole body underneath the sweater or nothing like that. But you know, it depends on how your body is shaped and the certain details. And so the ability to, hey, be like, oh, maybe I'll split the yoke earlier, or maybe I'll do less increases in the yoke. All of those things are things that you should really have under your belt before just jumping into a lace yoke. So yeah, you need sweater skills, you need lace skills. It's also really tricky working with the 2 yarns at a time. I didn't have that. I had very low expectations going in. I was like, this is gonna be a nightmare. It's gonna be sticky. My hands are gonna be sweaty. I'm gonna be dropping stitches all over the place. It wasn't that bad, but it's definitely not something to be like taking lightly, especially if you're not comfortable with lace or not comfortable with sweaters. And then next thing you know, you're frogging a whole bunch of mohair. I didn't have any situation in this sweater where I had to frog a whole bunch of it. And then people are like, oh, put the sweater in the freezer and all that kind of stuff. I had to kind of go in with a certain air of confidence because I was just like, I feel like the mohair and the lace can like smell fear. And so I really went in with a lot of intention, keeping really good notes because I was like, I'm not frogging this thing. And I did not have a big section of frogging. Yeah, so yes, definitely advanced. Also, I'll mention this when I get to talking about what I did for my sweater. There are no short rows in this pattern, so if you want to add short rows, you know, like I said, all the things that go into sweater construction, I would definitely look into those things before jumping into this. That all being said, TinCanKnits, they're kind of known for like their patterns being great playgrounds for teaching. And so when you go to the pattern, there's links in the pattern on Ravelry as well as throughout the app that will take you to, hey, this is how you choose your size. Hey, you're knitting with 2 colors for the first. They actually have a guide on how to choose what color mohair you use to get the effect that you're looking for. Tips for working with 2 yarns at a time. So if you've already knit a sweater before, you know what you like, you know you want to knit a circular yoke, you're familiar with some of the techniques that go into lace. This was my first time doing bobbles. Then this would be like, okay, I want to try something a little bit more advanced. TinCanKnits is a great place to start because they have all of the teaching tools on their website. I prefer written blogs, and I like going to their written instructions, and they, really great pictures, really great diagrams. And that's another benefit to the app, is the app will take, it'll be like, make one, and the make one will be a hyperlink, and you click on the hyperlink and it takes you to the website for the tutorial for the make one. So definitely advanced, but you can do it if you commit to, learning some new techniques. So this is my Silverbells. I started this back in April, finished it in late July, so it took me about 3 months on top of everything else I'm knitting. So on average for a sweater, I'm pretty good with lace. I enjoy doing lace, and so it really didn't. The thing that took me the longest was I showed y'all how I stopped in the middle of this to cast on a colorwork sweater. But for the most part, it was a pretty uneventful knit. I did choose to do the bobbles. I have never done bobbles before, and I was just like, well, this is a great opportunity to learn since I own this pattern now. And I did swatch for this, and I practiced my bobbles in my swatch, and so that's how I learned to do the bobbles. Not the most enjoyable thing in the world. I don't think I'm gonna be like, yes, bobble. Like some things I try for the first time, like lace, and I'm like, oh, I love this. This is great. I want to find more patterns, or brioche or something like that. I do not have the bobble bug. I will not be doing more bobble. I just found it to be kind of tedious and not worthwhile for the final result. Not my personal style choice, but I did do it. As far as modifications go, that is one of the modifications I made. She tells you to, or they tell you, TinCanKnits is a team of 2 women, to knit with size 8 needles. I did size 8 needles for the body, but when I got to the bobbles, I did just pick up my size 6 that I already had out for doing my ribbing. I did that. I used the size 6 needles to make my bobbles, just so they were just a little bit tighter. They kind of came out kind of sloppy on the size 8 needles. So I did and I intentionally tightened them as I knit them. And so that probably slowed me down a little bit and made them a little bit more tedious to do. But I've done them. I was thinking about going back through and kind of neatening up some of the stitches, but I really don't care to, and I don't think it's gonna change the effect that much. I feel like if you're an appropriate distance away from me, they look like bobbles and they look fine. I am a child of the 80s, raised in the 90s, so there is something very throwback about bobbles to me. It does not feel very like contemporary or current or hip, and so it's just not something that I'm just like, oh yes, I need a bobbled sweater now. It definitely takes me back to some sweaters I wore in my childhood. So as far as my yarn for this sweater, we've got, I'm going to show you 2 yarns now, but we're going to get into a 3rd yarn shortly. I'm looking for the other yarn, but I ran out of the yarn. Okay, so my main yarn are 2 Lion Brand Sock Ease colorways. So this is Lion Brand's discontinued, turn limited at a time yarn called Sock Ease. This is the aviation colorway, and it's got like strong fuchsia with light blues and turquoise and dark blues in it. This is their aviation color, which has a lot of similar coloring, but the navy blue comes out a lot more. And this is a 75-25 commercial sock yarn. And it comes up with micro stripes if you actually knit the socks. And then the mohair I used is actually an acrylic mohair. It is Lighthouse Beacon mohair, and it's 50% mohair, 50% acrylic, and 300 yards per 50 grams, which hold on to that because we're going to get into that in a second. And so I held those together. I did do the folded neckband. I did mostly everything held together to pattern, except for, if you heard what I just said, this acrylic mohair I got is 300 yards per 50 grams. Usually, traditionally, most lace weight mohair alpaca usually has 400 yards plus in 50 grams put up, but I'm guessing because it's got that acrylic in it, the grist makes it that much denser and heavier, so you get less yardage per ball. And so I should have had, I think for my size, I needed 1,040 yards if I was using a traditional put up of like a silk mohair or a silk suri alpaca or something. I would have had enough in 3 balls, but my 3 balls only had 900 yards. And so if you can see, I have just 1 row and the bind off of 1 sleeve. And I had some scraps of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in this kind of like heathery purple color. So luckily I have a very generous scrap bin, and also I tend to knit in a very tight color family. And so I'm always able to kind of steal when I need to finish off projects. I could have ripped this back and got a little bit more over here, or I could have stolen some from the body, but there's something to be said about just using up all of the yarn. This acrylic mohair I got for free from a yarn swap, so I really wasn't interested in getting more of it. And it was just nice to just use it all in this one project as kind of like, okay, this is my attempt at making a mohair held with a traditional yarn. If you can't tell, the Beacon mohair, the acrylic mohair, it is like a fuchsia bright pink. It nearly matches this pink that you see in the ball of yarn here. So I thought the colors went really well together, and then I just have a little bit, and it's kind of nice too because the edge of this cuff is this pale blue color, and so the pale blue and the purple don't really clash that much. It doesn't call attention to itself in the way I have some of this mohair in like a bright red color, and I was considering using that, but I only needed like a few yards to finish the sweater. I also, if I needed more yardage, I could have just done a regular collar. If you're, feeling like you might be short on yarn, the folded collar does take up a lot of yarn. I also considered at one point doing shorter sleeves on here. I could have done like a 3/4 length sleeve on here. But then when I saw in the pattern that the sleeves just went straight down, I was like, let's just do it straight. And then you get just a little bit of volume here. I don't know why I put this back on, because I want to show you. So if you notice, these are 2 different colorways of sock yarn. And so just so you know where it stops and starts, I don't think that's the whole reason I used those 2 colors, because I thought they went really well together. The aviation is up here when I cast on, and then I knit until I ran out of the first ball. Then for the body, down here, and you can see it's a little bit darker, which works. That's how I usually do my projects. If I'm mixing and matching yarn, I do the lightest yarn on top, because that's what you're gonna see. It's around my face. And then the darker yarn towards the body, because usually I'm sitting down or I'm in shadows, or if I'm standing up, you're not really seeing that part of my body. And so I put the darker color down there, and this is the aviation down here. And then when I cast on the sleeves, I got a brand new ball. So the body took me, this isn't even a whole, I have a whole ball left of this. Long story short, I used almost a whole ball of the second color. I used one ball of the first color for the yoke, and then I got to this ball for the sleeves, and so I did both sleeves on half a ball of this basically. So I have one half of a ball of this, 2 and maybe 20 grams of another ball of this. And so I probably could have gotten this whole sweater done. If I had 3 balls of the same color, I could have finished this sweater. But because I had 2 of each, because basically Lion Brand discontinued that yarn, and so when they brought it back, I went and ordered 2 of each color, mostly for socks, but I was able to get a whole sweater because the colors were analogous to each other. My gauge, the gauge for the pattern was 17 stitches by 27 rows per 4 inch. I did gauge swatch, and my gauge swatch did match the pattern gauge, but things just change. And when I'm knitting a gauge swatch, I think I'm a little bit more relaxed, and I'm actually concentrating on the swatch. And so my yarn, my tension was a bit looser. I am in general a tight knitter, and so I'm not surprised that my actual gauge on the final sweater came out to be 18 stitches by 28 rows. That being said, I did gauge swatch. I did get gauge in my swatch, but I also kind of know myself a little bit better than that. And so I did she has an M/L size, medium/large size, which is 44 inches. I did that size knowing that I have a 38-inch bust. My final sweater is 39.5 inches in circumference. So I have 1.5 inches of positive ease, which I don't like a lot of oversized garments. I do like a closer fit. I didn't want it to be skin tight because I feel like the lace lends itself to a more relaxed fit. But in the end, I got the fit that I wanted by going up a size, knowing that my gauge was going to come in a little bit tighter. If I had done my own size, which I think they do have, I think they have a 40-inch or a 38-inch, I would have been dealing with negative ease probably, and I didn't necessarily want negative ease for this. So I have, just a couple of inches. And I don't know, I'm assuming because this is like nylon sock yarn mixed with like acrylic, I don't think it's gonna grow that much, but it does give space to grow. And also I probably could have maybe blocked it more aggressively. I just laid it flat to block it, because I was just like, I could pin all this lace out and it would open up beautifully. It opened up a little bit. It definitely made a difference. I steam blocked it halfway through making it, but I know that this is gonna be something that I wear often. I'm gonna sweat in, I'm gonna get food in, it's gonna be like on my front of my body. And so I'm not gonna wash this and pin it out every single time. So I usually just wash things the way that I'm gonna wash it going forward, because I'm just like, no. My shawls that are like lace shawls, I wear those for, a very long time without washing them. So I don't mind pinning them out again. But for something like this, I'm not gonna bother to pin it out. So as I said, I followed most of the instructions. I did do the bobbles. The big difference between my sweater and the pattern sweater is that I told you that they have you separate for sleeves and then continue the lace motif down into the sleeves and across the chest and into the body. I knew going into the sweater I was not going to do that. I was just like, I'm going to stop the yoke when I split for sleeves, just because that's how my brain works. That's how I'm just like, once I split for sleeves, I just want to do stockinette in the round. I don't want to go back and do 3 different sets of charts, one for this sleeve, one for this sleeve, one for this body. Also, I'm doing bobbles, and proportionately speaking, my chest is quite pronounced, and I was just like, I do not necessarily want bobbles in a high abrasion area, if you catch my drift. The idea of putting on a sweater and then, you know, going out and about, you know, putting on my coat, taking my coat off in the winter time and having bobbles right there just seems like it would be rife to get snagged on something and to just bring attention in a way that I'm just like, I think it looks just fine just here. You get the whole idea of it. So I decided before I even cast on that that's how I was doing things. It turned out to be very serendipitous because, as I said before, this sweater does not have any short rows. And so I decided in lieu of doing the short row, in lieu of doing that other chart repeat, right before I split for sleeves, I inserted short rows going across the sleeves in the back, and that just brings a little bit more length to the back, so the collar comes down in the front. So there's a distinguished front and back to the sweater. And I just did that by finding the simple sweater pattern by TinCanKnits. I own that, and I just used the way that they do short rows because it has a similar gauge, similar stitch count. The thing to keep in mind with that, of course, is the way this sweater is set up. The motifs are supposed to be kind of centered, or not kind of centered, they are centered. So you have one lace motif going down the front. So I did have to play around with stitch counts and shifting my beginning of round. I did a pretty good, I was pretty impressed with myself. As I said before, working with the yarns held together, I just could not keep my stitch count straight. Like I would count one round and then I would go back and count it again, and I would get a different number every single time. And it was just very difficult for me to see the stitches. Like I got a little frustrated, a little emotional, but I figured it out. At the end of the day, I was just like, okay, my stitches are right, my stitches are right. I counted it so many times, got everything right, and then I went to pick up, I did the whole body, and the body, I got to the bottom of the body, I was like, I hope this ribbing works out. Like, what if I'm one stitch off? Worked out fine. I got to my first, I did my right sleeve first. On my second sleeve, I realized that my second sleeve was one stitch less. Triple checked my lace. My lace is flawless. Somewhere in, I think somewhere in doing my short rows and going back and forth, I shifted the beginning of the round wrong, or maybe I picked up a double stitch the wrong way. I did German short rows. Long story short, I was just like, I've come this far. I was nearly in tears. I'm not gonna let one stitch break me. So I just played around with how many stitches I picked up for the sleeves. And then I just did, because I usually pick up extra stitches for my armpits. And so I just picked up one less stitch for this armpit. And so from here down, from the armpit down, my sleeves are the same size, and at this gauge, one stitch was not going to make or break me. Yeah, you're the only people, the strangers on the internet that are watching me, that will know my stitch count was one stitch off. And I think that's what threw me up, because I was like, my lace is fine, because I do stitch markers for every repeat of lace, and I did make mistakes on my lace, but you know, once my stitch count is off on one repeat, I just dropped down and picked up a yarn over or whatever. So that's just, it wouldn't be a candibknittin sweater if I didn't end up with some really weird thing that, like, the lace didn't mess me up. I inserted short rows from a different pattern. I was like so proud of it. I was like, no, we're still gonna throw something else in there for you. Yes, so almost right. Did run out of yarn. Other modifications, I just did the body a little bit shorter. That's just my personal preference. I did knit the sleeves to pattern as far as the length is concerned. And usually I like my sleeves shorter than the pattern recommends, but this time around the sleeves were perfect for me. I was like, oh, this is exactly what I wanted, because I just ignore the sleeves. I will say, another YouTuber by the name of She Knits in Color, did give me the warning that in the pattern, they tell you the sleeve length based on the length from the yoke all the way down rather than just telling you from when you split. So like in the pattern, they're like, oh, it should be like 22 inches or something like that. And you're like, 22 inches? That doesn't sound right. That's a long sleeve. But they mean the whole side of the sweater, which is a little tricksy there, TinCanKnits. But I usually just knit my sweater and then just keep trying it on until the sleeve is the length I want it. And it just so happened to work out this time around that they were recommending a sleeve that I liked. That being said, if you do this pattern and your gauge is off, make sure you measure your yoke to what your yoke is and do the math to figure out how long your sleeve is supposed to be. Or, you know, just keep, if you don't mind just trying it on, but just keep that in mind. Yeah, there's no shaping in the sleeve, so you just get a little bit of a bubble. If my stitch gauge had been accurate, I probably would have had more of a bubble here, but it worked out nicely. So last but not least, we're going to talk about my feelings. A little bit of a review. You could probably tell from how I'm talking. The pattern's great. TinCanKnits is great. If you're looking for well-written, bang for your buck patterns, TinCanKnits, love them. This sweater is not my personal, what do you call it, taste. So it becomes like just personal preference, I guess. There's nothing wrong with the sweater. I think it's nice because I knit it, so it definitely looks nice, and I didn't just knit it for no reason. But I wouldn't have bought the pattern had I not gotten it gifted through donating. It's very, I feel like it's just very specific. Like I have thoughts in my mind of where I would wear this. Like I might wear this to church with some nice slacks. Like it's a nice sweater, but it doesn't necessarily, the style doesn't fit like my everyday lifestyle, and I don't feel like it's super versatile. The thing I like about TinCanKnits patterns is that they have so many sizes in them, and you can knit them for different colors, different people. You could stripe them, you could do this. I don't have that many people in my life that I would be willing to knit a lace yoke, bobbly, mohairy sweater for. And I don't necessarily know if that's the taste of most people in my life. So it's not as versatile as like a simple sweater or a best friend's hoodie or what have you. But didn't have any, my only critique of the pattern, because I did the short rows and I probably could have been fine without the short rows. So yeah, to each their own. Short rows versus no short rows. My only beef is that because I got it gifted digitally through the app, I don't have the paper pattern. I probably could email them and ask them because yeah, they have my username and password. So maybe they'd be like, hey, can you just send me the pattern? I would have liked to be able to print it out and like mark the lace charts, because in the app, there is no way to, they give you the whole chart and you just work from the chart. And so the beauty of the TinCanKnits app is that you mark off your steps as you go. You're like, check, I did that. Check, I did that. I've done, like when there's a repeat in the pattern, they'll tell you you're on repeat 1 of 3, 2 of 3, 3 of 3. With the lace chart, they just give you the chart, and there's no way to mark the rows. There's no way to follow the rows. Sometimes if I close the app and open it back up, I have to like log in and bring up my pattern that I was working on. And so if I didn't mark what row I was in the lace, which you can put notes into the app. So I just wish there was something for that in the app. There's a lot of other great things in the app, but I really wish that the chart could be marked on. And that's another reason, like if you're not super advanced, probably go to Ravelry and download it from Ravelry instead of using the app for that. But if you like this sweater, you will like the pattern. If you want to get this look, I probably will knit it again just because I am a person that likes to be efficient, that I like to get bang for my buck. But I probably will try it without the bobbles just to get a different, because you know I have the pattern, and I don't need 2 lace bobble sweaters. I'm not like I do have a lot of clothes, but I'm trying to get away from that. And you know, with knitting, I'm just like, oh, I can have like I hate to use the word capsule collector or whatever, but I would like to have a few workhorse statement pieces and then work my wardrobe around that. And so this is, you know, a bit frivolous. So I don't really have a need for another bobble situation, but I probably will try it more with a DK worsted weight yarn and maybe like a summery, like maybe a cotton bamboo, and try to do this lace and then do the lace as the pattern suggests, doing it all the way into the sleeves and the body, just to give some versatility to the pattern, because I'm not going to make my kids lace yoke sweaters. I don't think this is Mr. Rulud's personal taste. He's rather plain. And so I'm just limited on how many people I would actually put the effort in to knit this for. I do like the idea that I own the pattern now for the charts, because you see all this sock yarn I have left over. I could take this chart and put it on a pair of socks. How cute would that be? And I could have matching socks. I could put it on a hat and have and now I'm like talking about like, I don't really have a lot of clothes and I really want to pare down. Like, no, I want to be extra. And so I want a matching hat to go with my sweater. I will need more mohair or something fuzzy to get the same look. I probably wouldn't use mohair on socks just because my feet sweat, but a hat with mohair held double with these baubles and this lace. I don't even know why I would have a lace hat, but it just, you gotta do the, I don't know, we'll see. So now I have the charts, so I can do that if I so wish. Also, I could probably, if they want you to do the lace in the body, you could do the lace down the entire front of the body and just have a whole lace situation. So that's another option there. So, you know, trying to think about how I can get literally squeeze every bit of value from this pattern. Or maybe I'll feel generous one day and go and buy some mohair and make this for someone else. If there's someone in my life that's watching this right now, it's like, oh my God, that's so beautiful. The other difference you'll see here is I do have a tag sewn in, because yes, the short rows give a little bit of shaping, but with the fuzz and with my brain, I keep putting, is this on the right way? Is this on the right? And then I turn it the wrong way. I'm like, okay, this is definitely the right way. So I just went ahead and sewed a little tag. And these are like, I think my sister got these from Etsy probably. They're little canvas tags that just have candibknittin printed on them. And so sew them into my sweaters so I can tell the back from the front, which I need to probably go back to some of my older sweaters and do that, because I'm constantly putting sweaters. I always think, oh, it's very obvious which is the front and which is the back, and then I put them on backwards, or I get confused. Sometimes I look for the stitch, the double stitch from the short rows, but with the fuzzy yarn, it's kind of hard. The overall thoughts on the yarn, fine. Free acrylic mohair, and then sock yarn that I paid maybe $7 a ball for. Definitely showing that you can use value yarn to get a luxury look. Definitely a good, for me, stash buster, because like I told you, this is my favorite sock yarn. I definitely stocked up on it when it came back. And so to know that, you know, hey, yes, you can knit socks, but socks do take a long time. So it's nice to say like, oh, okay, I can get a whole sweater out of this. It's definitely going to be durable. It's machine washable. I'm not necessarily going to machine wash this. It's going to last. I probably won't have the issues with pilling that could come with a sweater like this. Not the softest thing in the world. I will say, even with this little row of Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair, I can feel the difference. Like I know in my which wrist it's buttery soft. So if you want to try mohair, I do suggest, I think some people say like get the best mohair you can afford, because there is a difference with the scratch factor. But also, you know, swatch, feel it, think about it, because I know some people have allergies and stuff. Like, I don't have any allergies, and I don't mind a little bit of scratch. Like, I actually like a little bit of like texture. But I'm also probably gonna wear this, or I don't even say probably, I will wear this. I have a bunch of like just long sleeve cotton shirts that I wear in the winter underneath my sweaters, and so that's gonna be what I wear with this, so it's never really gonna be like all up in my business. But yes, this, and luckily with the lace, it will be more breathable than most mohair, nylon, acrylic sweaters would be. But I also like and appreciate the fact that I took a striped yarn, which a lot of people also will be like, you know, oh, it's gonna get lost in the pattern. I don't feel like this gets lost in the pattern at all. Because you have the single strand of mohair that's all the same color running through it. And so by using the mohair, I was able to take two different yarn colors, yarn colorways, and blend them together. And then it also, within those yarns, softens the individual colors. So I really don't feel like you get significant striping in the arms because of the circumference of the arms. And then you get a little bit of striping in the body. But I honestly don't feel like it does anything, you know, a lot of the solid ones are, I think this is its own vibe. I'm not mad at this. And there's maybe like some flashing and pulling. Flashing and pulling doesn't bother me in yarn, to be honest with you. So approach at your own risk, but just know that it is an option. It's not always like, oh, you should never use a multicolored yarn for patterns. Because this could have been disastrous, and probably would be disastrous with certain types of yarn. But I think using, just like I said, a solid color of mohair softens all that contrast so much that really you do see the pattern pretty well. Yeah. My only, like I said, my only real like beef or negative is that, is like I said, it's just not as versatile. It's a very unique type piece, and so I just don't, there's only so much I can do with this, and so many times I could knit this pattern. But yeah. Yeah, that was, yeah, that's all I got to say about this sweater. Have you knit the Silverbells sweater by TinCanKnits? Have you used the TinCanKnits app? Do you agree with me that you should be able to track your lace chart through there? I think they're coming out with another app, and I think the new app is going to be like multiple, like you can use other people's patterns, and so that would be interesting. Let me know if you've heard more about that. I would love to learn more about that. I do follow them, but you don't always see like the latest and greatest on Instagram. But yeah, I would definitely recommend it, and let me know what you think. Would you knit multiple lacy bobbly sweaters for yourself and your family and friends? If you are, I mean, like if you're like that person who like, I want me and all my siblings to match, or me and all my friends to match, this is a great sweater for that. It's called Silverbells. It kind of evokes like a holiday type situation. So if you're that person, go for it. Are you the kind of person that knits patterns multiple times, or are you the person that you knit it one, you're done, you move on with your life? Let me know. You can do that below and in the comments. You can email me, candibknittin@gmail.com. You can DM me on Instagram. I'm Rulude on Instagram. I'm candibknittin on Blue Sky. Until next time, peace.